Hello, my name is Steve McGhee, and I'm the Superintendent of Schools of the Harperwood School District. And you're tuning in to HW NGR Next Generation Readiness podcast. I have two special guests here with me today, Mr. Gregory Walker. Say hello, brother.
Hello.
And Kaz. Kaz, say your last name for me again.
Hello, I'm Kaz Agnes. This Agnes like the tip of a shoelace. Aglets. Yeah.
Excellent, brother. So listen, I have your bios in front of me, but what you all have in common is the love of music. You know, Mr. Walker, and we're gonna kind of bounce this off. You know, it's not in a certain order, but I kind of want you to give your background and educational background, your passion for music and how you got here, and then want to go to Brother Cass over here.
Awesome. Well, my name is Gregory Walker. I am a Metro Detroit native. Grew up in the Southfield Public Schools. I took it to Southfield Lathrop. From there, I kind of had a wayward journey because my first stop was at Michigan State University.
Okay.
Initially went in pre-med. Then while I was there, I kind of realized like my love for science became more of a hobby and my more passion was for music. And then I had transferred down to the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Down there, I was performing with the marching band, Marching Musical Machine of the Mid-South, performing with the jazz ensemble, the symphonic band, and various other like student-led ensembles while I was down there. Then I received my master's in music from Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
So, question: so how did that hit you as you transform from that medicine to music? Because I'm sure. And I'm having these conversations with my son. He's a sophomore at Alabama, and his passion is music. He's in the band, but he's an engineer. So when I say talk about engineering, he said, "Yeah, I'm doing okay, Dad. I'm doing this. But when I say something about music, he just lights up. So what was those conversations like with your parents? Because that was a conversation.
It definitely was. I even still hear from my wife because I met my wife at actually elementary school. We met back up in Michigan State. She was like, I thought I was gonna marry a doctor. I was like, don't think. But it was at the end of the day, it just had to deal with my happiness. And when I am experiencing my most joy and when I'm happiest is when I'm dealing with all things music.
Yeah.
So I just knew that, like, I guess I had the opportunity to do other things. But for me, for my future, for my life, when I'm happiest, it involves music.
Excellent. Brother Cass, same thing. Your background. I did read your bio, but I want you to elaborate on it as well.
My name is Kaz Agnes. Schooling wise, I went to DPS schools. I went to Base Academy coming up, and then I ended up going to UFD Jesuit. I transferred to Renaissance. And then from there, I started going to online school because I put out an album when I was 17 and ended up moving to Hong Kong. I started working on music out there after I got a write-up in the Metro Times. I was a 2017 artist to watch. And then that opened up a lot of doors for me. So I ended up going overseas. And then when I came back home, I moved to LA. And I was there for a while, worked with a few artists, ended up going over to London where I met Symbolic One. He put a lot of game in my mind about how the industry goes, how to read contracts, what to look out for, and just has kind of been like a musical mentor of mine distantly, and it just brought me to right here. I was supposed to do a lot more things before the pandemic, but things happened, and then just picking up the pieces and just trying to inspire people and keep it pushing. But along the way, I've gotten into footwear design. So my last name is Aglets. And that's the tip of a shoelace. And what that means for me is in life, you have a lifeline, and that's like a shoelace. And the two things in life that's guaranteed is the fact that you're going to be born, and after you're born, you're going to die. So what I want to do is do something impactful and, lace up and sew up a lot of things for myself, my community, my family, through music and other creative endeavors as well. And that's what led me into doing footwear. So
That's kind of sweet. I remember before I went off to the Pentagon, and I just graduated from A&M. I was on my way to DC to start my first job, and my mom, she took me shopping, and she bought me like 10 suits. Okay, I said I still hadn't got out of that. I was still in that college mindset. And she said it's a fine line between success and failure, and that line is called mediocrity. What side of that line are you going to be on? So when you start talking about that line and that shoelace and that tip, like it's really a point of what type of legacy are you going to leave?
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when I
And
made that.
yeah, and it just popped back in my head when you said that. So you've been fortunate.
Yeah, honestly, I've been blessed. I've been really blessed in my journey. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been in your passion for a long time.
Yeah.
So does it feel like work, or is it still your passion?
Oh, it's still my passion. I find new things to learn and do every day. So it's like recently, I started doing classes with New Balance. I did a master class through Pensacola Lewis College with Dr. Dwayne Edwards, and had mentors such as E. Scott Morris, and a lot of different people from New Balance came in to teach me the actual proper way to ideate and formulate doing shoes. Because before that, I've been doing a lot of things under the table. Like when I took a meeting with 300 Valentine's Day 2018, I was walking through New York because it was Fashion Week, and I ended up meeting Steve Madden, and that opened up just a random rabbit hole of doors. But that really made me take shoes serious, and like seeing it as something that I could actually do and actually pursue. So when I went to Penn Sol, which is Lewis College, that has been revamped by Dr. Dwayne Edwards, it's really like that legacy, that HBCU legacy of just creativity and just making that renaissance of Detroit. And that's something that I also want to be a part of. And past that, a big thing of what I want to do is sustainability. So right now I'm taking a few courses with the European Institute of Innovation and Sustainability, one for fashion sustainability, and the other one is for space entrepreneurship, and that's actually a master's program in conjunction with Airbus. So I'm going to go into the space sector as well.
Excellent. I'm going to come back to that. I got a couple things on. I want to bounce back to Brother Walker here. So I'm looking at this. So this is what year is this for you?
This is my third year with the district.
Third year with the district, and I was doing the board meeting yesterday. I was giving you accolades, but I didn't want to go into detail because I didn't actually know the detail about the number of kids who have received scholarships and things of that nature. Touch on that for us.
So we have a senior class of 5 students, and all 5 students received scholarship offers to attend Wilberforce University.
Excellent.
I had 4 actively that were receiving full scholarship offers from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.
Okay.
So that's roughly about $350,000 in scholarship offers that these 5 individuals currently have right now. And I have a couple more that are auditioning for some other schools too within the next couple of weeks.
So how does that? I'm an educator. I've been around for a minute. That's how I really became superintendent. These 20 years really took me to become superintendent, but I've been in education probably I would say I'm close to 30. Done a lot of things. I'm going going into my resume, but that when you see that students have adhered to your teaching and developed the appropriate skills and the mindset to take it to the next level, that collegiate level, how does that make you feel?
One of the things that always excites me about education is you see that switch and it clicks, and like they got it. Like, that's what I'm very passionate about, and that's why I always want to teach to make sure that when they click, they get it. It may not always happen in your classroom during your time with you there, but as long as they have that there, and then potentially down the line that you get it, that's always good. But these kids have been working extremely hard. I call them like my cord.
Yeah.
When I first got here, it was
cool.
middle of the pandemic, we were all virtual. Then that last year, was kind of interrupted. But these ones were like really the ones that kind of rocked it out throughout the year, kind of held it down. And that's just been great. Yeah. Great kids.
Yeah. You know what? And that's, I can see you light up with that. That's what the opportunity bridge is. What I was elaborating on during the PD, even though I talk about practitioners and bringing practitioners into the school, education has changed so much. It's not like it was 100 years ago. I say that all the time. You can't open tomorrow's doors with yesterday's keys. If you're literally talking at a child in a classroom, you've already lost the battle. You got to have that level of engagement. So the opportunity bridge deals with bringing practitioners into the school, but it's more so than anything else. them finding their passion. That's why I said that you're fortunate. Like if your passion is business and entrepreneurship, let's find it. If it's real estate and the brokerage or transportation or finance, let's find it. So literally, you acquire those skill sets and be able to go out into the world and live your passion. And through your passion, you're gonna find other measures that's gonna fuel your life. I just don't believe that our children should have to start at the lower echelon of the economic structure, at the base. It shouldn't. It didn't have to be. You know, those are the struggles of generations before. You know, so we have to kind of rectify that. So congratulations on that piece, and I guess that's why you became a teacher, not a doctor. You know, for sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure. You want to elaborate on that? Yeah.
You know, just still kind of, I guess, you know, helping lives and working on lives just in a different form or fashion.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm very fortunate to have these individuals and for them to like confide in me and
Was
trust
there one
me.
individual to help you turn that corner and shifting from medicine to music, or it was just something that was an epiphany in you and you kind of struggled with yourself?
I guess it was like stepping out and like not living in fear because I've always been told like, you know, music that's not, you know, really concrete, you know.
Was that dad or mom?
It was my father.
Yeah.
He's always like, you're a man, you gotta provide for your family, you gotta work. He's like, you're taking all these AP chemistry classes, these science classes, it's like be a doctor. I was like, yeah, you know, I could be a doctor. I could do that. It's like, but at the end of the day, it wasn't what made me truly happy.
Yeah, yeah. I got a feeling that's what my son felt. And I'm waiting in reserve. You know, I can feel it. So whenever he hits me with it's gonna be. I just really want him to like live a life of passion. It's really not the money's gonna come if you're living in your passion, and that I can feel that from being. I know that from being a superintendent. You know, and people think I'm, you know, it's a glutton for punishment. All my life, I've wanted to be a superintendent, so now I'm here. And so whatever comes with it's fine. You know, I want to get back to my man. You know, how was that time abroad and overseas?
Wow, yeah, that was mind opening. You know, when I went to Hong Kong, it was when I freshly turned 18, and
How long did you stay?
I stayed for only a month that time, but that opened up doors for me to go to Taiwan, and then that led me to go to London. But and in those times overseas in Hong Kong, it was very crazy because I got to see a whole different culture, and just to see like the way that people interact, the way that people think. I saw a lot of people who dressed way differently. It's crazy, like to see. I saw like a guy who would have on like archive vape or like Supreme or stuff that's like streetwear and trendy now to the youth over here, but over there to people that's like 80 wearing it. And that just kind of like blew my mind because it's like a different sort of psychology. And then going to Taiwan, it was really cool because everything there is a lot more playful, you know, and it was just like they have like cartoons and drawings on their public transportation, and you know, the public transportation cards, everything has art on it, and they really deliberately design spaces to create energy. And I tried to bring those ideas and concepts back, especially to my community. So yeah, that was kind of the
I think
biggest.
that's part of that feng shui.
Yeah, feng shui, wabi sabi, all those different type of ideologies.
Exactly.
I got a question for you. How did you figure out that you wanted to be a superintendent?
Oh man, my dad. So he was my. So mind you, you say you went to Bates, right?
Yep.
Before Bates was Bates, it was Bovian Junior High School.
Yep. True.
So he taught there for 20 years. He was my teacher, homeroom teacher, and he was also my graphic arts teacher. So literally, honestly, I said that I was not going into teaching. I went opposite. So my first degree was in printing, production, and management. So I'm gonna get out there and make this money.
Right.
You know, and at the end of it, about a month before graduation, I was going to graduate. They sent the letters to my parents, and they were like, "Hey, you know, your son's ready to graduate." I called my parents and said, "Oh, we excited. We sent out the invitations and everything. We're coming down." And the older brother, I'm a kid, and they said, "Well, look, we're gonna go take all the senior brothers. We're going out." So they took us. We went to eat. Actually went to a Chinese restaurant. We got there about 11 o'clock. Didn't leave until 5. I mean, we stayed there just eating, and they were, I think they were a little afraid to have us move. It was about 20 of us, you know, so we stayed for dinner as well. After that, we went to go see Lean on Me. Right. After I saw that, and it just kind of just triggered something because, like my dad was my homeroom teacher the whole time at Bolivian. It was always in the back of my mind, but I ran away from it. What I ran away from, I ran into.
That's true.
Exactly. You know, and the older brothers were like, look, you know, you need to. They looked at my grades and said, why don't you just run for SGA office? I said, my parents, you know, it's time for me to graduate. You know, and they said, no, you're going to run for SGA office. They looked at my grades, everything was good. I ran for SGA office. 2 weeks later, I won. Called my parents and I'm like, look, I won a year scholarship, you know, for student government, and they're going to pay for book, room, board, books, even a university car, you know. And she said, my mom said, I need that in writing, you know. They sent them the facts and everything. About 2 days later, I stayed that year and got my degree in education. And after that, it just took off. I mean, I was going to teach in Huntsville schools. I did my internship there, but after that internship was done, I got recruited by the United States government to go into my first major, which was printing production management. On that DC coast, listening to go-go movies. And literally, after about 2.5 years, 3 years of that, I realized I did not want to stay in that government sector, that I really wanted to teach. And when it kicked in, man, it was like just like that. It's just like you with your passion. When it kicked in, that was it. You know, so yeah, and after a while when you're in education, as a teacher, you can move your classroom. Okay? Those kids, those 150 that you have. When you become an assistant principal, you really following the dreams of a principal. A principal can move an entire building. That's just like an art stroke. The stroke of a brush, just like the lace, the tip. For me, it got wider. The widest stroke that you can have in education is a superintendent. Yeah, that's it for me. Yep. So I'm living it. I'm good. You all have any questions about tip to one? I got a couple other things here, but I mean that you know.
My question is, so what are you currently working on like now?
Okay, so right now, I'm gearing up, like I said a little bit earlier, to embark on my journey with the European Institute of Innovation and Sustainability. I just did I'm gonna start right there, and that's in space entrepreneurship. I want to work in creating satellites, you know, to mine asteroids and to clean up space junk, and eventually get into long distance spacecrafts for space exploration, and then eventually things where I could do media in space, like performing in space. I want to do those sorts of things as well, hotels, things like that. And then outside of that, I just got onboarded to a distribution company named Video. They did some of Post Malone's things, and when Ye did the Jesus album, they distributed that as well. But I got onboarded to that, and I'm releasing 4 projects, and we're kind of doing this whole rollout where I'm going to be producing digital editions of t-shirt designs and shoes, and we're going to use that data to actually produce physical products with some of our partners.
Is that an overseas piece? Well, that was something I generate. The time that I spent overseas with the government, you know, I just really, they were so far ahead in technology and the way from day-to-day interaction. So that wasn't there. That was really here. Okay.
Well, it's happened because a couple years ago when I was going to Taiwan doing music, working with some acts like YZ and some guys named Gambler, like they have a really interesting hip-hop scene because it's not like China. And it's not like Japan, and it's not like Korea. It's very niche, and there's a lot of guys over there that really inspired me. And I ended up doing a performance over there with one of the friends who introduced me to some people with Volkswagen and Discovery Travel. But when I was over there, I ended up talking to some of the manufacturers that made the supplies for New Balance years before I even did the New Balance class, and it wasn't even a correlation. But when I saw the way that they manufactured product and just the supply chain and the logistical side of things, that even kind of changed my approach to how I make music. And so now a lot of my things are a lot more streamlined, and I want to kind of take on like a Henry Ford approach, where you have a vertical and a horizontal approach of business and create things, and I really don't want to waste. So that's something that I like.
So let me give you a piece of history with that. Henry Ford's approach that he adopted came from George Washington Carver.
Yeah, yeah,
The brother from Tuskegee, literally, literally, you know, and he was a botanist, you know, plants and things of that nature. I ate plant, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler. That was really where the name generated. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I never
Right,
knew that.
yeah. They spent a lot of time. They spent you know, he was a very modest individual, George Washington Carver was. He turned down a lot of lucrative jobs at the time, you know. At that time, they were going to offer him $100,000 to work with the federal government, and at that time, that was huge. Exactly. But he chose to stay at Tuskegee, and Henry Ford would come and visit him. And the place where he was, you know, he started getting older, and he could barely do the stairs. So actually, Henry Ford had an elevator built for him at his location, so he can go up and down. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure, man. DSO. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to touch it because it seems like you're a person that has their hands in a lot of different things, and like I have a lot of friends and colleagues that's in music, and they're like shifting more like digital music and the art things and stuff like that. Could you speak on like the importance of not just musicians, but just being like that diversified and being creative in that space?
For me, I've just been blessed to have a lot of people who laid a lot of foundations for me. So I just want to walk in that because a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices for me to be who I am. You know, on my mother's side, I come from a lineage of people who all have their master's degrees. You know, her father and his siblings all had that. And from her mother, those people all had a lot of musical talents. My grandmother used to sing. Um, her siblings played instruments, and she had a brother who played with Louis Armstrong. He was in a group called the Treniers, and it's just like a rich musical history and rich educational background. So for me, I feel like it would be a waste if I didn't embody all of these things, if I didn't walk in these purposes, because my father, he was into computers, so I have to do things with code. I have to do things with cryptocurrency. I feel like I have to continue that legacy, just as how you were walking in your father's, path, and I feel like that's very, very important too, especially to have that structure, to have that family structure, and to see that role model and to walk in that. So I just kind of want to do that. That's kind of where it comes from.
Because speaking on that, like walking in the father's footsteps, my father was an electrical engineer with Superintendent, then pivoted and with the education. He was retired from DPS this past year for Flicks Academy.
Yeah, so right behind Rennie.
Yeah, so he was always like getting the education. I was like, I don't want to do this, Dad. I was like, I want to play. I want to, get on my horn, share it out, work like that. Then I finally came over to his side, and then the pandemic hit. I'm watching all my friends scramble for money because they're out touring and doing all these other things. And he's like, look at me, check didn't stop, did it? And I was like, nah, didn't.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's the father piece. Like, I know, so my son is at Alabama University. I don't know if you all know this, but Huntsville, Alabama is the fastest growing city in America now, like the fifth growing in terms of population and people, but also industry. That's where Redstone Arsenal is. That's where NASA is. That's where Northrop is. All of the major governmental installations are located in Huntsville. They've been duplicated in Huntsville. So I say that to say this. Huntsville is the number one place in the entire world for engineers. As soon as you cross the stage, you have a job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the conversation with my son was before was like, in order to fuel your passion, you have to go into something, engineering or IE, whatever it is, that's going to fuel that passion, that's going to allow you to live that lifestyle, that the money, the funding will continue to come in, and then you can drift into your passion, i.e., what you said that you actually had to do. That's the father side, because at the end of the day, you know, you have to be able to stand. No matter uh, America looks at black males totally different than they look at others. And mind you, I'm not afraid to say this. When you're living in your passion and you are achieving within the context of that, that's part of the threat. When you get off into education and you're able to plant those seeds into others, that's part of the threat. This is part of the threat. It doesn't matter. I could be on CNN or Fox News. I'll tell them the same thing. It doesn't matter, But so my thing is to be able to make sure that we're planting the seeds of proper choice in the lives of children. That next generation of individuals that will be out there, And education is key. That level of, I call it an incomist. An incomist is this, where you have 4, 5, or 6 different streams of income, like yourself, in terms of your ideology and the areas that you're going into, that you aspire to, and that you're already in, that will allow you to live a median income lifestyle, moving directly into an upper echelon lifestyle as you move into that portion of your life, which is that's a great thing. I can't put it any other way, man. DSO.
Yeah, that was just
DSO.
about to ask
So
about that.
we have 3 students that are playing with the civic youth ensemble groups that are through the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. You have Matthew Dickerson, Shania D. Motley, and DeJuan Gentry.
Yeah, I recognize all 3 of those names. For
Yeah.
sure, yeah. That's the
Right.
core.
They're the core.
They're the
you know,
core. I
and
know it. Yeah.
I'm like super proud of them. Like Shania, she's been in music and doing things
Yep.
since she was young, and she even like arranges music for the band,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Matthew, he just started getting into music when he got to the high school. He started playing tuba. So these last few years,
I got
really
that
came into his
tuba
own.
case. I got to replace that tuba case.
Yeah, we will talk about that.
Yeah, I got to. Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah, and DeJuan, like, he's really came into his own because he literally just started playing euphonium last year.
Wow. Yeah.
And, it's his senior year, and everywhere he's going, everybody just kind of glows and talks about how well he sounds, how he's able to do things. And he's, like I said, he's writing his check to anywhere he was applying to.
Yeah.
He's gonna get a scholarship for music to go there.
That's amazing. That's great, bro. I can't put it any other way. It is, and that's the thing. Like the time that I spent over in the middle school with Quincy, Mr. Stewart, and he's our middle school choir teacher and music teacher. When he encouraged the kids, they never played anything, nothing. They never. I don't want to do this. I don't want to play. By the time they're done, like mid-year, they're playing.
That's what happened with me with bass.
Yeah.
That's how I got into playing alto saxophone. So it's like, for me, having that is more important than anything. If I never had art in school, or if I never had music in school, I would have never become what I am today and been able to use that to get into things like certain STEM things, like the rockets and everything like that. So I just wanted to interject right there.
Oh,
It's
listen,
important.
you never have to worry about that for me. I mean, when it comes to self-expression, when it comes to careers and career non-traditional pathways, because I know I'm a non-traditional, so I know that I am, and just feeding into kids' passion and what they want to do, or exposing them to something,
Exactly.
and that reveals something. I'm all about that. My deal is I want to integrate the Common Core, the English, Math, Science, and Social Studies, into the non-traditional. So they get the core. You got to have the core, but they get it in a way that they become thirsty. It stimulates them. They thirsty. They grinding it up. They eating it up, and it's being regurgitated through their passion. And then of course let it translate to that state standardized testing, because that's where the money is. So it is what it is. Yeah.
And It's true what they say about students that like study music. You know, these are going to be your higher achieving students. They're going to be testing higher because there's just something about music that it just fires the neurons in your brain. He did studies where certain parts of your brain that don't light up, light up when music is involved in it, and it's just super important. And it's a shame not now because it's making a resurgence coming back like years past. Like when places were looking to cut budgets, the first thing to go was the music department.
Well, because you went through that time period when it was talking about everybody's going to college. Everybody's going. Everybody's going. That is not like literally. That's not the key. Nor is that the answer. And mind you, it's not a cookie cutter approach to success. So to push everybody into college, that was a misnomer, and that never should have occurred. But it also what it did was it was a process of elimination as well. But it also fed that that process of of getting loans. Even now they're talking about loan forgiveness and all these other different things, you know. And society tells you that, but if you're not getting a scholarship, okay, how do you afford that unless you made provisions or someone has made provisions for you to go to that next level? Okay, so i.e. the CCI Center with all the disciplines that we have, or the Opportunity Bridge and the multiple opportunities to go off and get a certification and licensing that's going to help fund, your passion and you going to the next level without you as people of color going into debt. And that's the piece. Like you get $100,000 worth of debt from college, that's the first, quarter of your life. You spend the next 2 quarters of your life trying to expel that debt, and then you get a car, you get a house. So you went from 100 to 150 to 300,000. Then you add children to the mix. You die in debt. Trying to figure out, but that's a mindset. Like you have to kind of look at it, and that's the piece I want to pass on to kids. Now, don't dip into something that you don't have to. You have multiple opportunities here to graduate with a certification and get off into the world in your passion, earning money, and then to be able to pay for it. If you're trying to go to that next collegiate level, if you don't have a scholarship, there are multiple ways that's out there that our counterparts use on a daily basis that we act like we locked into and we don't have to be.
Because I always tell my students, it's like understanding that college may not be necessary for everybody, and I get that. But as long as when you're done, you have a plan and a goal and a way to execute that, that needs to be happening. Because you don't want to graduate school and just be look up and real world, dropping the real world, and you just like, I'm drowning, and can't get up. But this is one of the things I really appreciate about like our HBCUs. And, like it's big now, we're talking about HBCU culture. I love that.
Yeah.
And like the bands play a big part in that culture. And what these programs are doing, they're providing a lot of opportunities for kids to fund their education. Like you necessarily don't have to major in music to get a music scholarship. You go into engineering, you go into medicine,
right.
you go into education, you can do agriculture or something. But as long as you have that passion for music and you're a capable musician, you can play. It's like here, full tuition,
yep,
scholarship. It covers a lot, and then you combine that with another couple, maybe a whole academic scholarship or something like that. Your education should be paid for.
It's a done deal. It's truly, and that I can see. I mean, I knew that. I went to it. So my dad told me in the 6th grade that I was going to Alabama. I was getting letters and stuff like that, but the only one I ever opened was the one that I got from A&M that my counselor gave me. Michigan and Michigan State. I kind of okay. I was playing ball. I knew I was gonna play football. I was gonna do something, right? But when I got that letter from A&M, I took it home. That was it. And once I graduated, about 2 weeks later, I was on a Greyhound bus to Alabama. It was a done deal, Detroit Metro Time 2017. What was that? How did that?
Man, okay, so that came from one of my musical mentors, Swoozy Dolphin. He was a part of a group, a collective named Cap Wolf. I met some of those guys. Two of them went to U of D Jesuit with me. Lex Wolf, and then there was a guy named the captain. He went there as well. And I met them, and they always just gave me an outlet to express myself while I was young. Like, and when I would go to architectural school, I would learn certain things. And Swoozy went to U of M, so I would always be up at U of M, and sometimes I would hang out with some architectural friends, and I would make music, and I just was able to express myself. But they saw what I was doing, and they always supported. So when the call came in for who they should look for after they were artists to watch in 2016, Swoozy put my name in the hat, and so I found out about the Metro Times, and then going overseas like right around the same time too. So that was a pretty surreal time for me in life, you know. So it was pretty
That's
cool.
cool, man. That's cool.
I love having that community. You know, that's what I want to give back to. I heard you mention something about the DSO. One of my dreams is to actually revamp my music and create kind of like a black tie event for the youth, like a fundraiser event where we sponsor kids to go and to see something like at the DSO.
Okay.
And the hip hop music is like retranslated as chamber music, you know, and still the same lyrics, same rap, you know, everything like that. But music has real instrumentalists, and it's actually done in a pit and everything like that. That's something that I
That's
always
sweet.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Definitely a cool thing.
Yeah. So, literally, you said you were graduate of Rennie. What did you get out of Rennie?
No, I didn't graduate from
Okay.
Rennie. I went to online school. That's where I ended up
Okay, gotcha.
finishing up. But I was class of 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I went to Hong Kong, that's what I was doing online school.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't be physically in class.
Oh,
and do
yeah,
that. So
that's
I
cool.
did that during the time I was in high school.
Okay. So, we of course, I want to kind of touch back on our passions in this piece, you know, because we probably may not be in the same space again, you know, honestly. Um, do you have any children by any chance?
No, not yet.
We got a 1.5 year
One
old
and a half, boy, girl.
girl.
Okay, great. So I have two sons, you know, and I think the biggest thing for me is, and Malachi's here, he's in 11th grade, he's here, Malik is down there, and you know, I think the one thing that I want is to make sure that they're academically sound, but they live a life within their passion, you know, and by listening to both of you all, you know, that you're much younger than I am, that you were able to tap into that. So if you had to leave some things, you know, to the next generation, if you have to point some things out to the next generation of individuals, of children, you know, starting with you, Mr. Walker, what would that be?
It's a heavy question.
Yeah, I'm glad this is recorded because, you know, we would come back some years from now. And that's the thing about it. It's like we're kind of in this time capsule right now, you know. You're in the moment, you know, but later on it's going to be much more prevalent because did it manifest itself? You know?
My advice would be just to kind of stretch yourself, because what I've been seeing here, not just here but around everywhere, is a lot of people like tell our children like they can only do like one thing. It's like, oh, you play football, so that's what you need to do. Go play football. You go play basketball, play baseball. You're an art kid. You're this kid. It's like that's not the case. Because when I was coming up, I did band. I swam year round because I was in clubs and in my high school. And I also ran track in the spring. So you need to go out and find what you really enjoy, what really makes you happy, what makes you passionate.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that, you know, life is too short to just to do something monotony from time you're 25 until you die.
Yeah. And mind you, that's the part of that generational piece. I'm the last generation of 30 and out. You're in the profession for 30 years and you retire, you just walk away or whatever, walk into the sunset. You know, generations after, it's like it's multiple avenues that you should be, you know, pursuing and not just settling, you know, just get out there, man, and get that level of exposure and touch on?
Try different things. You know, if you like music, work on some music. You can do that and do other things at the
Yeah.
same time. It's like don't put these limits on yourself because a lot of times um, we let other people's fears and trepidation kind of determine what kind of dreams that we can have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you can't be an actor because X, Y, and Z. But if you're very passionate about it, go at it 100%.
Yeah.
And even if you fail, you can't say like you didn't try. At least you didn't try.
Yeah, and I think when you're very passionate about something and you're giving that 120 and you constantly giving that 120, eventually you're gonna be successful at it.
True.
Because you're walking constantly through doors, and even when they're shut, you're walking around them and under them to get to the next one. And then you finally get to that point where you want to be.
Right.
You know, uh, I want to say one other thing, but I don't know for the cat.
Well, for me, it's kind of piggybacking off the same things. I believe into education, and it comes from a root word that means to come from within outward.
Hear me, man. I just like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
It's a root word. Adore.
Yeah.
Education to bring out.
Yeah.
To bring out of you, man. Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah,
Good deal.
so for me, it's kind of like trying a bunch of different things, and then the big thing also for me is talking to people. I know we live in a time where it's easy to just lose yourself on the phone, but a lot of things for me, a lot of opportunities happen for me actually walking up to people and speaking and just learning. A lot of times, and then you just really learn how to learn how to move, and you just learn how to connect with people and just leave something behind. That's what I always try to do, and just reach back and help out. Those are my things, those three keys, as long as you expose yourself to stuff, talk to people, and you leave something behind, then I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Did you have any challenges with being a black man in Hong Kong?
Nah, it was the biggest thing was when I went over there, Trump got elected. So a lot of times people thought I was African. So I met a lot of businessmen, just a bunch of people. It was like a lot of African people over in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a very international city. And I met a lot of accountants and bankers, and it put my mind in a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
But over there, it was more so like, do you rock with Trump at that time? And then they were really concerned about. This is around the time before China was starting to get more rule over there, and they were telling me about how they were going to start having to fight against the police and do all the things that they were doing, having those protests. And at the time, I just couldn't see it because it was just like such a beautiful place. The architecture is amazing. It was just I couldn't see that, but then it eventually came to pass. But, and then over when I was in Taiwan and I did the show in Chiayi with Volkswagen and Discovery Travel, when I came off the stage, I saw a guy in a MAGA hat, and that kind of threw me for a loop. And I was just kind of like, yo, I had my homie with me, and he kind of I had him translate like, yo, man, this hat, do you know what it represents and all of that? But from that guy's perspective, at the time, Trump had called Taiwan its own country. So at the time, like a lot of people were like, oh, he's stupid, but he was like really trying to poke at China and say like, oh yeah, if y'all do this, we got they back. And it's like a whole political thing that I didn't know, but I was educated by talking to that guy. So then I was just like, wow. So I just had to learn like, everybody's perspective is different because of where they sit and everything. But it was never really any racism in that sort of way. It was more like a lot of admiration. A lot of times people tell me welcome back. A lot of statues with Omeki and nature, like the most revered Buddhas, they were always darker. And all of
the Moors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Look, that Moors is not even a part of in any book.
Yeah,
Literally.
Exactly. So we could get into that.
Exactly. That's a whole nother podcast.
Exactly.
It is. It is. But hear me, that piece with China and Taiwan is coming to. It's coming to fruition. It's coming to a head as we speak. Yeah.
It's really interesting to see all of that. And then over in London, there was one thing that was very interesting to me was to be around people of African descent in the diaspora that know exactly where they came from. Yeah. It's kind of like really, I'm like, man, I wish I knew that because they would be like, yeah, we're about to go to Ghana and see our people and like all this stuff. And it's like really interesting to see how that looks in that way. Being able to go back home or to be in another place and make money in the currency and send it back home and send it to your family.
Let me
It's just like
tell you another historical fact. Marcus Garvey, too, as a matter of fact, with the Back to Africa movement. Literally, many of those individuals from that time frame, they spent time in Upper Michigan at Idlewild.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, and one of the ships that Marcus Garvey wanted to purchase was off of Lake Michigan to take African Americans at the time back to Africa, back to Africa. Oh yeah, yeah. And also Detroit Red, which is Malcolm X. He and his family lived in Lansing. That's where they lived. That's where his father was killed at, and his family was decentralized and put into foster care, literally. So those actions when he was a child actually planted the seed of who he became. He did his thing in the streets for a while. Then he went into incarceration, went into the light, things of that nature. But when he came out, man, that what happened with his father really fueled before the nation itself. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yes.
This has been a great lesson. I'm not gonna lie. It's like you put me up to a lot of different facts of life. You gave me perspective.
Well, brothers, I think we're kind of coming to an end. I want to actually thank my guest here, and but I also want to thank you all for making it easier for me to being able to go through the NGR process. And I was thinking with Ms. Phillips, what she got me doing music? What's this about? But actually, this was the most enjoyable because as I thought about it, I went to again about your passion, and that's what life is really about, man. You can make the most difference in the world if you're living your purpose and your passion, and you're not mimicking what someone says you should do. So, thank you all again. Thank you very much.